I remember that night really well. It was New Year's Eve, and I was with my friend who lived just a few blocks from my home. And we were having some wine, and we both just wanted to stay inside. We didn't really want to go anywhere. And I began to get a little tired. And my girlfriend only lived a few houses away. So I said, I'm going to go home. And we hugged, said Happy New Year, and I ended up leaving. And I got home, and my dog greeted me, and so I went into my room, and I decided to go to sleep. And fairly early. And the reason why I say this is because it must have been getting close to midnight, because I noticed that I heard the sound of the fireworks becoming much louder than it woke me up. And when I looked, it was 11:59, so it was close to midnight. And I just looked at my dog, who was laying beside my bed. I petted my dog, and I closed my eyes and laid back down. But something told me to turn over, because my back was laying on my side and it was facing the door. My back was facing the door, and I rolled over. And when I rolled over, I opened my eyes, and I seen, as if I was feeling it before, but I seen a dark shadow of what appeared to be a man dressed all in black. And he had a black mask on. I remember that. And so I screamed so loud, and he ran over and he jumped on me, and then he began to hit me. And that's when I also felt not only his punches with his hand, but he also had a gun, and I felt the gun also hitting me. At this point, he rolled me over to my stomach, and he cuffed me, but it wasn't cuffed. It was like tied, like zip tied. And then he rolled me back over to my back so he could look at me and strike me again. And he was saying all these things to me, like I was going to regret this, and you're going to regret everything you've ever done. And he continued to say these things and beat me. And there were moments where I would pass in and out of conscious, because at moments he would also choke me and then stop choking me and choke me. I remember him doing that a couple times. And I was really thinking, I remembered that I was going to die. I was just going to die. And so he just kept doing this and kept hitting me. And it wasn't until one point where he said, after I'm done with you, I'm going to get your husband. And I said, please don't hurt him. I love him. Please don't. And it was as if something snapped in his mind, because he literally lightened up. He lightened up, and then he said something like, where's your jewelry? Where's your nice stuff? So I guess he was there to rob me. And I had mentioned it, and then he ended up carrying me out to the back porch. And opened the door. He also asked about the alarm system and what was the code. I remember that in the Batman voice. He had a Batman voice. And from that point, he opened the door and he took me outside. And from this point, I just was laying on the ground. He put me down and just laid me out there, and he left.
Hello everybody, this is Greg Stewart, and welcome to Criminal Psychology Files. Today's case is based on the Batman Intruder, and this takes place in a small town in Canton, Georgia, where a young lady by the name of Rodney Metzer almost meets her demise as she's beaten by an intruder wearing all dark clothes and using a Batman voice as he speaks to her while hitting her. So we're going to get into this case. But before we do, please subscribe, like, and share, and also comment, because your comments really help as my armchair life coach. We've been getting some good comments in reference to some of the people's psychology. One person had written in reference that this person, clearly had PTSD. And this is exactly what I'm looking for you to do, to make your comments to help out so other people that are observing and watching, you can clue them in as well. So again, without further ado, please subscribe, like, and share. And this is the case story in reference to Morgan Metzer, and how all of a sudden, by mentioning her husband's name as her ex-husband, but clearly stating, she doesn't say that to the assailant, but she says, please don't hurt my husband, when he makes the statement, after I'm done with you, I'm going to hurt your husband. She clearly at this point emphasizes, please don't hurt my husband. Please don't. I love him. And all of a sudden, it went from a smashing of this person and possible kill to just a robbery. I don't want to say just a robbery, but to a robbery, before he finally grabs Morgan, takes her outside, continues to have her tied, blindfolds her, puts something over her head, and leaves her for dead while he takes off. So outside of that, we're going to find out how this story continues right now.
So I'm laying on the back porch, and it felt longer, but 40 minutes had gone by, and from the beating, my eye is swelling, I'm hurting, and I'm tired, and I hear someone coming into the back, and as I hear them, we go up a step, so I knew that someone stepped on the patio where I was. So my heart is racing and beating. Is this person back to finish the job? And then I heard a familiar voice, and it said, "Oh, honey, what happened?"
So Morgan hears a familiar voice. Prior to this, she's hysteric. She's wondering, did this person come over? Is he going to finish the job? And then she hears the voice of Rod Metzer, her ex-husband. And all of a sudden he says, honey, what's happening? Why are you like this? Who did this to you? And she's just crying with emotion, because a part of her says, oh, I'm saved. But she's still coming down now from what just transpired. I nearly got killed. I was nearly dead from some crazed person with a Batman voice. So now he says, okay, I'm going to untie you, and then I'm going to call the police. And the police were going to find out exactly what happened, because I need to know as well. So let's hear what happens next.
So that night, I get the call at the station. I'm the detective on duty to head over to Morgan Metzer's home. And when I get there, I'm greeted by both of them. But Morgan, obviously, she's in hysteric. She needs to calm down. So we're going to give her space. And we have someone talking to her to help her relax. And so we started by questioning Rod. I started questioning Rod. And Rod said, I don't live here. I'm the ex-husband, but the reason why I'm here is because there was a knocking on my window and I was asleep and I couldn't see anybody there, but I heard them mention the name of my ex-wife, Morgan. So I tried to call Morgan, but she didn't answer. And so I said, you know what, maybe I better get over there. And when he arrived, he couldn't get into the door. He was knocking and knocking. He thought maybe I could get through the back. And he just happened to go into the back area, and he noticed on the patio that Morgan was laying there.
So at this point, do you feel that things are not adding up? Because that's the thought that the police are having. What are the odds that a person is going to leave a crime scene to go 12 miles away, which is the amount of distance that Rod lived from his ex-wife, go there, knock on a window, and say words that you can't make out, but you could make out Morgan. Then you're going to get into a vehicle and you're going to drive, and you just, out of all things, lights are off, door is locked, she's not answering. Yes, you see the vehicle. And would you as a person go around to the back, or and to look for someone to see if I can get in the home, or would you call the police? So here are the things that the police are starting to put together in reference to the psychology of how Rod is thinking. And is he the hero, or is he something else?
So one of the things when I arrived on scene as the detective there, other police officers were there. I was getting ready to speak to Rod, and he was pacing up and down. And he became very defensive, which is understandable. You want to see that your loved ones protected, but we literally just got there. And what seemed unusual was that he would say, "Have you heard anything? Has anybody seen anything?" Yes, it's New Year's Eve. People are coming home from partying, but this is a very quiet neighborhood. And at this point, it's 3 a.m. Most people are usually asleep, even on New Year's Eve at this point in this neighborhood of Canton, Georgia. Anybody that lives here knows this. And he was just like attacking in his words, almost as if he wanted to know, what do we know? And that put up some red flags. And then I finally had the opportunity to talk to Morgan and ask her about her relationship with Rod, where she stated at that point that they were divorced some months back, and Rod just appeared. So it went in a little bit to the history of their relationship and try to paint a better picture, a clearer picture in reference to Rod. But I also didn't want to overwhelm her because she just had a major incident happen to her.
I waited until the next day to speak to the detective. I ended up going to the hospital and getting my wounds dressed. And then I began to reach out to the detective that I'm ready to talk. And I emphasized the relationship I had with Rod. And I understand that the first person to look at is Rod, not because there was any proof, it's just he was my spouse. And so he's the one to connect with in reference to, is he somehow involved? So I had mentioned to the detective that one of the reasons why we divorced is because I felt like at times Rod was able to manipulate me, he would gaslight me. He turned our children at times against me. He turned my family against me at moments, not permanently, but enough to question me because he would state how aggressive I was. And so I felt that I needed time away from him, and we took that. And then I eventually ended up divorcing, which he didn't like. He felt like I was taking away from the children, that he really loved me and that that's wrong what I was doing. But my mind was clear for the first time in a while. And so I ended up leaving the relationship, divorcing myself from Rod. And from that point, it seemed that we had a good relationship. He would come see the kids when we had plans for him to see the kids. And I felt like everything was going to be okay. And the officer, or the detective, I should say, had said to me at this point, did you notice anything out of the ordinary in reference to that evening? Well, he had a Batman voice, but there were some things that seemed familiar. And he goes, do you want to elaborate in reference to that familiarity? And, well, after I had mentioned when he was hitting me the assailant, and then I said, please don't hurt my husband, because he threatened to hurt my husband. He lightened up, and then eventually he would grab me out of the bed and carry me. And the carrying seemed very familiar. Familiar in a way that one time I remember Rod carrying me. He was very gentle, the way he lifted me off the bed. And this person had that same feel, to the point that I remember saying to myself, this is him. This is Rod. I know it's him 100%. And the officer said, we believe that's true as well. We're going to begin this investigation. And we're going to look for possibilities of other people. But right now, we're suspecting him. After being mentally and physically abused and always told by Rod to my family, as well as the kids, it made them feel like I was losing my mind. I was afraid, I was apprehensive as coming up with pointing a finger at Rod, because no one has ever believed me before, because the manipulation was so powerful that I just felt no one's going to believe me. And I literally felt like I'd melted, like, wow, I finally can relax. When the detective said, we believe you, I felt like this weight was lifted off me, that maybe I will get some justice because of the abuse that I thought was over by divorce. And now this happened. It just was like a breath of fresh air.
So at this point, things are not adding up for Rod. At this point, they ask, can we take a look at your cell phone? Can we take a look at your cell phone for just a moment there? And he was very apprehensive of giving the PIN. They go, no, Rod, we're going to need the PIN. So they go in there and they find photos of Morgan in the nude, photos where it looks as though she is not aware of these photos that would be considered an invasion of privacy. So they said, you know what, we can use this. We can put him in jail for at least 24 to 42 hours on just this alone. So as they investigated more, they also noticed stalking material in the form of text pictures of Morgan's phone. That's right, text pictures of Morgan's phone that stated that she was talking to another man. So this is burning him up as well, meaning Rod. So now they have enough to put him in to begin their investigation. And they bring this to the attention of Morgan, and she was just blown away. She was so sickened by it, on top of being in a lot of pain from what just happened. So the investigation begins, and they look into his home. And as they look into his home, they notice something, their first real proof of evidence. Remember, that evening, Morgan was tied with zip ties. So they seen not just similar, but a perfect match that resembled what Morgan was tied with. And the unique thing was that there was a loop that they were pre-made to just tighten them up as a cuff. And they were a particular kind of zip tie. And so when they looked at the zip ties from Morgan's wrist that night, and these, a perfect match in reference to what was used to restrain her. So now they're going forward. And as they go forward, and they got these pictures, and they have these text messages that were taken pictures of in reference to the conversations that Morgan was having with another man. This infuriated Rod. And now they also notice a book, 7 Ways to Be Her Hero. And one of the chapters elaborated of Be her protector. Show her that she needs you. And this will make a woman fall in love with you. Now, I don't know who the crazy man that wrote that book, but at the same token, Rod was drinking the Kool-Aid. He was like, this is me. So he's building up his mental resources. And the more you build up and repeat in your head, the more it becomes something you're going to do or some way you're going to blame yourself. In Morgan's case, she kept repeating to herself negative things because she didn't have the support system. And so she drank the Kool-Aid the other way. Well, Rod was drinking the Kool-Aid to get himself pumped up for this crime. And so they have him in jail. They gave this to the district attorney. She was all in. Yep, we have a lot of evidence that points to Rod. And they bring this to Rod's attention. They take him in and they go, Rod, can you explain the zip ties? I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because they were in your home. Okay, so he denies that even though they were in the home. What about this book? Oh, that was just a book. What about, these pictures, these invasion of privacy? So Rod is starting to feel the pressure. And as it goes into court, now all of a sudden, it's like, I'm going to go away. There's no way around it. It looks as though they got me. So Rod makes a plea deal. He eventually says, you know what? All right, I'm guilty. I made some big mistakes. I shouldn't have done the things, and at first he tried to get out of it, that the pictures I'll own up to, and maybe that will, this will go away. But they still had enough on him from the whereabouts, from the check, from all of these little things that were enough to finally get Rod to say, I'm guilty. You got me, but I'll only say I'm guilty if you give me a plea deal, because right now what was on the table was a 70-year sentence. And Rod ends up getting 25 years on 14 counts in reference to assault, invasion, and the list just goes on and on. So justice was served at this point, but at a tremendous way of others suffering, from Morgan to the children to Rod's family as well. But again, justice was served, and at least for the time being, Morgan can feel a sense of relief and free of the wrath of Rod. So I hope you enjoyed this criminal psychology file. Please comment, please subscribe, and please like. It really goes a long way in reference to helping this channel continue to build. And again, leave your comments, because anything that I ever leave out, you could also put in reference to that particular case, so we could help others together. Remember, we're in this together. That's the beauty of this channel, Criminal Psychology Files, for you to comment, for you to be the armchair life coach on things that I may have left out in reference that could be helpful to this case. So until next time, have a great day or evening wherever you may be.